People ask me, is it too late to get in? Bitcoin shot to 11,000. Not too long ago, it was at 4,000. And people go, is it too late?
If anything, you're too early.
Okay, welcome to today's show. I have one of the most special episodes for you. I have Brock Pierce here, who, if you don't know, I consider you one of the OGs of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. He is the chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation. He's humble, so there's about 30 titles I could give him. But if you know anything about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, he is one of maybe the most well-known person in the world, #1 expert, been into virtual currency since the 1990s. He is the co-founder of Blockchain Capital, which is the biggest crypto blockchain venture fund. He's the co-founder of EOS, which is the largest ICO in history. I did the math. It's probably over $700 million raised. And is it fair to say you're a crypto billionaire?
You asked me one of my sort of favorite questions lately. I've been putting into all of my talks that a billionaire isn't someone with $1 billion. A unicorn isn't a $1 billion company. A real billionaire, in my opinion, is someone that has positively impacted the lives of 1 billion people. A unicorn, in my opinion, is a community or an organization that has, positively impacted the lives of 1 billion people. I think one of the, kind of misconceptions and a lot of what's leading to the world in which we live is this kind of misunderstanding of money. Not that money's a bad thing; it's just a tool, but that people spend, a lot of their lives in pursuit of it, thinking it's going to make them happier and it's going to provide them with something they need. And all they have to do is ask themselves, why do they need something? And then they'll learn, maybe if they'll discover whether or not they really need it. And so they'll go through a lot of their life thinking that money is going to bring them happiness. And then if they're lucky enough to eventually get it, a lot of those people end up staying unhappy for the rest of their lives, afraid to lose it.
Right.
Because it's all about being in the present and living in the now. And in the now, you don't need very much. And so I think, as people are thinking about money, and clearly, we're attempting to reinvent it. So
right.
The old adages of money is power, that paradigm is going to come to an end, and it's going to be technology is power and consciousness is power and all sorts of interesting changes to come.
So if you're watching, my target audience in this conversation, he's jetting to Colombia. He's speaking at the #1 Bitcoin conference at all South America. So I want to get I want to respect your time because you're a super busy guy.
I got back into LA this morning.
He got in this morning. We were supposed to meet up on Friday, and it was like we might have to helicopter him in and da-da-da. And I was like, all right, let's put it off to today. So for people not familiar completely with cryptocurrency, blockchain, Bitcoin, in one sentence, if I have to explain to somebody what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is, what do you say to them in 1 or 2 sentences?
Well, I mean, the funny answer is it's magic internet money. But
there you go, magic internet money.
But no, it represents something far greater than that, and that is that it's a monetary system that is based on math and cryptography, and it's open source. And it's transparent, so it's governed on a peer-to-peer basis. So it's a system that can't be corrupted, it can't be cheated. It's a system kind of for the people.
Do you think, big picture, there is a potential that Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, blockchain will take down the Federal Reserve, US dollars, pounds, euros? Can you see that in a world in 20 years? Or does it compete?
I think that there's uses for both. And what Bitcoin isn't a currency. It's not a transactional currency. It's far too expensive to do transactions. What it is it's a store of value, meaning you're better off thinking of it as gold 2.0 or digital gold. And when you think about it from that perspective, you have to ask yourself about the history of money. And so for the last 5,000 years, the primary form of money was precious metals, gold, silver, and copper.
Yes.
And those three, after 95,000 years of experimenting with everything, were selected because they had specific attributes. It was sufficiently scarce so that you didn't need a truckload of it to buy a loaf of bread. You can transport it. It had to be malleable. You got to be able to take it apart, put it back together again. It had to be fungible, like diamonds. It has to all be the same. It can't, like diamonds. Non-spoilable. You wouldn't want to put it in a safe, go get it in a year, and it's rotten.
Right.
So these precious metals have very specific attributes. Bitcoin possesses all of those attributes, except for it's a lot better at all of them. And the other big difference is gold is physical. Bitcoin is intangible, and the intangibility is a positive trait because you can send it from anywhere in the world instantaneously, and it's just gold actually, it's easier to club you and take it off you.
Yeah, PayPal, Western Union may be a thing of the past. So
it's more gold, I think.
You think gold. Now, gold,
really
the number one question that we have, I asked just some beginners on the drive over here. Is Bitcoin a bubble? I know you're probably sick of being asked this. Everybody's been saying it's a bubble. You see big bankers saying this. The more they say it, China's banned ICOs, Russia's banned cryptocurrencies, the more it's going up right now. What's your answer to that? Is this a bubble?
Yeah, of course it's a bubble, but, what are bubbles? Markets, and this one in particular, the sentiment is the primary barometer, of the price right now. And so, when you think about it from, that perspective, it's going to be an emotional market, and you're going to see emotional run-ups, and because it's scarce, you can see these big movements, and you're going to see corrections, and, it's just like back in the internet bubble, it wasn't all this straight up and to the right for years. We had lots of, movements during that phase. And so this is going to be no different. So the data point I would give you, though, that's most interesting is we're calling it a $300 billion, we can get $400 billion market cap sector more or less right now, and kind of doing this in this period. How big do you think the internet was during its heyday? In 1999, it got to over 7 trillion, the internet tech stocks, and so 7 trillion, and that was when it was only a Western phenomenon, and this is not adjusting to inflation. So
right.
I could argue it'd be a $50 trillion or $100 trillion market today. So relative to that market that was betting on the future potential of a new technology, which is inferior to what this is.
Yeah.
This is 10 times bigger. I think, we're in maybe a temporary one, but we're far from being even anywhere close to where the internet got.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I would argue is the biggest bubble today is the stock market.
So you think cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin at $300 to $400 billion market cap is not nearly the bubble as conventional S&P 500 regular stock market, what people have their 401k.
I think the stock market's more of a bubble.
So you could see that crashing, a bigger crash than you could see crypto.
Of course. It's a bigger market, too, so obviously, But,
so would you recommend people listening should be starting moving a little bit of their money from conventional stocks over into Bitcoin, Ether, things like this?
Yeah, so I don't ever like to give anyone investment advice. And I don't think that if someone tries to tell you, you should do this, you should invest in that, always be very skeptical, because a good teacher doesn't say you should do this. They give you information, they transfer knowledge to you,
yes,
so that you can, be informed and get more informed if, it's inspired you in some way.
Yes.
And you should know what you're doing and then make decisions for yourself when you feel that you're adequately informed. And I think that's what good teachers do. These are the types of people that you should listen to, people that are trying to hawk something at you.
Right.
Normally that should put off the red flags.
Red flags.
And so the information that I would give people is if, you're doing what's called asset allocation. If you have assets, you want to try and figure out how they should be allocated and give some thought to it, have intention in the things that you do. And so you can say, okay, I've now been informed enough due to my own research,
yes,
to have formed my own opinion, to have my own view, because I'm making a decision for myself. I am choosing to do this. Once you've done that, you say, how much do I want to allocate? And that's going to be a matter of what level of knowledge you have and what level of conviction you have.
Right.
Your prediction of the future. And you might say, I want 1% of my assets in something like this. You might say, I want more.
Right.
I'm more or less mostly in blockchain and crypto-related assets and real estate.
Yep. That's where you put your money, either in crypto
real estate's my edge.
Real estate. So real estate is your physical asset that if something happens, you're balanced out here.
Well, I think the real estate market's interesting because it's undervalued, hugely undervalued, because it's the second largest asset class, and it doesn't have a matching engine or an order book. It's still running on real estate agents and talk about some draconian infrastructure. A market of this size, so as soon as real estate title gets put on the blockchain and where it becomes digital title,
yes,
it becomes fractional. The stuff that's going to come out of that is going to be utterly insane. So imagine if you could say, I want to buy $100 in every house in a neighborhood,
yes,
or $1,000, and it's all fractionalized, and it's a whole market that's trading all the time in fractions of home ownership. If you make it truly liquid, markets have liquidity discounts.
Yes.
Bring liquidity to the market, you will cause a huge increase in price.
So you think theoretically, so this is a whole thing for those of you who don't know. You have cryptocurrencies and they're built on a type of technology that's broadly called blockchain, and there's different blockchains. There's Bitcoin is on one technology and Ether is on another one. You are the co-founder of potentially EOS is going to be or is another technology. you're saying real estate is going to go up on this technology and no longer just be realtors with titles in old-fashioned 1800s methodologies.
Yeah, I mean, this is the technology that will, have that big an impact. It's going to affect everything. So to help.
Yeah, what else will it affect? What other huge things?
Let me take you down to the foundation. So the internet itself. If I wanted to describe the internet in 3 words, I would call it a data transport protocol.
Okay.
It's a system for moving information. Now, the problem is it's an insecure data transport protocol, and that's because back when the internet was first being designed, we didn't have the processing power to run the types of cryptography necessary to do this. And so the foundation of the internet was built wrong, and then we just kept building on top of it. But the problem is when the foundation of a system is wrong, meaning it's insecure, and the way that it was constructed, it'll never be secure. The internet is essentially broken. What the blockchain is doing is it's going to bring and create the secure data transport protocol. And so the internet is only fulfilling one small part of its potential because of this security flaw. When you fix security, the internet is going to reach its full potential, which is going to be, I think, 10 times greater. Every industry in the world is going to be affected, and it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Are you saying the internet will be gone as we know it?
Yeah, this is the new internet. It's the upgrade.
Huh.
So the entire internet's going to go, I think.
So will websites like Amazon, like Google disappear, or they'll have to go on the blockchain?
Well, they're gonna have to go through their process of upgrading. And anytime you have a big transformational event like this, read the Innovator's Dilemma.
Yeah.
You've got the incumbent and you've got the new entrants, and there's going to be a meeting of the minds there. But my view is I help the incumbent industry as much as I can. I help the startup community as much as I can, because if anyone is successful in changing the world and making it a better place, we all win.
Yeah.
So I help everyone. I don't ever ask for anything. I give everyone in the industry I can help, every person that I have as much time in the day to do. I don't sleep because, it's such an inspiring thing to do.
You're doing this free? Thank you for that.
I believe, we have an incredible opportunity here to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And back to that being a billionaire, this is the opportunity to be a real billionaire. And when you start to understand what's going to happen in the world, you eventually wake up and you go, wow, what I'm working on right now isn't going to matter in a little while. And then people, all of a sudden, I'm watching it happen in droves all over the world. Once they come to this realization, it's like they can't get up and live the life that they had anymore because it's no longer inspiring.
Yeah.
Because they realize that whole system's going to change. And now all of a sudden they're like, okay, I've got to go really rethink everything I'm doing. And it may stay in that same industry using those same skills they have,
Yes.
but be the one to do it. And that can be at the incumbents level. That can be at the startup level.
When he says incumbents, we're talking corporations,
the big
large companies.
Yeah, and the big companies are going to, also drive a lot of progress too.
So these big banks, should they be scared? I mean, some of these banks are hiring huge groups of crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain people to come in and consult with them, whether they be funds, whether they be banks. Do you think they should be scared?
I think they're doing the right thing. I mean, the analogy I like to use is we used to make our phone calls over twisted copper wires.
Yes.
And one day it switched to voice over IP, and everyone said, hey, this is going to be the end of, the telcos. And No, the telecom industry became the biggest beneficiary of the technology, massively cutting their costs in their middle and the back offices. And the banks are going to do the same thing. They're smart.
Yeah.
They can benefit greatly from this technology. When I was asked by banks early on in the space, because I did a lot of, introducing the ideas to them, they'd ask me, is this going to be good or bad for my business?
Yes.
I said, it's going to be both.
Yeah.
It's going to be balanced. You're going to have, some portions of your business are going to be negatively impacted, maybe even go away. Some portions of your business will get better. And it's innovate or die. I mean, you can't stop change. You can't stop innovation.
Yeah.
We are living in exponential times.
Yes.
So you have to get with the program, and that is, you have to keep evolving. And we're accelerating, which means you have to evolve even faster than you've ever evolved before. Mm-hmm. And that's the, kind of this really interesting thing about the period in time in which we live.
So, Brock, question for you. An absolute beginner is here. They're watching. They're in this course to learn about Bitcoin and crypto. I just want to ask you the most basic, because you are one of the geniuses of the whole industry, maybe, the most respected person in this space. So I want to take it down a level to people go, I hear what you're saying, Brock. This is the future. I'm making 50 grand a year. I have a job. I want to dabble in this. First question. If you were an absolute beginner or advising an absolute, just pretend I was an absolute beginner, knew not one thing. And I say, I want to start. I know enough that I know that I'm interested in blockchain. Like you said, learn about it. And I want to invest a little bit of money into it. What wallet do you recommend? Everybody's using Coinbase. People say Jax is great. Do you have, I don't want you to have to play favorites. Could you name a couple that you would recommend?
No problem. I do this all the time because, I mean, I get asked this question daily.
Yeah.
It depends on where you are. You know,
let's take U.S. first.
In what country you live. But let's start with the U.S. Coinbase is an option. Sometimes people have, found customer service issues to be the case, but that's really true of everyone. When you've had an industry that's growing at this rapid pace, it's hard to scale, and especially when you're dealing with this kind of money.
Yes.
You can't just say, let's add 200 new people and there's no room for error.
Yeah.
And so, I tell people that get a little frustrated with any of these companies, it's called be patient. You're in a boom like this. So, Coinbase is great, Gemini is great, Kraken is great. It's kind of like U.S. exchanges.
Have you heard of Jax? Somebody recommends
Jax isn't an exchange, so that's where you can procure tokens.
Yeah, I'm talking about, so let's start with procuring tokens.
Yeah, so that you normally go to one of the exchanges.
Yep.
There's also, other channels. Sometimes there's Bitcoin ATMs in your city if you just want to do something very small. The fees are high, but if you just want to get started with $100, it's an interesting experience, or just to check out.
Yeah.
And they're in most cities now.
So the wallet you would recommend opening up first is Coinbase.
Well, those are the exchanges.
Yep.
Don't think of them as wallets so much. These are places where you can buy your coins.
Yep.
You can store your coins there. Coinbase is more of that. But a lot of times what you do is you use them as the on-ramps and the off-ramps. Think of them as you're getting onto the new superhighway.
Yes.
You have to go from the old world into the new.
Yep.
And the exchanges are the path where you can go from $1 to a cryptocurrency. Yes. And so the first place is where you're going to get it. But now once you have it, you normally want to take it out of exchanges because you're not trying to leave your money in a bank. Don't do that right away. Mm-hmm. Make sure you know what you're doing. Leaving your money in Coinbase until you feel you're comfortable to move off it is a good thing.
Yep.
Get comfortable.
Because I feel like most people use Coinbase not only for the exchange, but for the wallet.
Yeah, and they're one of the betters if you want to do that, and that's what I recommend what beginners do.
Yes.
Because they're the biggest, they've got the biggest balance sheet, they've been doing it the longest.
Yes.
They've got insurance and things. So, I mean, if you're going to leave your money in one of the exchanges, you're
somewhat safe there.
It's the lesser of your evils. But ultimately, what you want to get to a proficiency that you can take your money out into your own wallet. I generally recommend a hardware wallet right now, which would be Trezor or the Ledger Nano, and that is to take your private keys offline. Make sure you get two so that you can have a backup, put it in a safe, and if you end up with a ton of money, make sure you have three.
So these are physical, just to be clear.
So these are you're upgrading to have your offline wallets, and then when you want to trade or move things around and send stuff, you're also going to have your online wallet.
So if you're interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and want to learn how to make money with Bitcoin, I'm opening up a brand new Bitcoin Crypto Academy for you. Crypto is starting to fundamentally change everything from currencies to the very structure behind the internet. And if you don't understand it, you will be left behind. Remember, if you had put $100 into Bitcoin in 2010, you would have over $100 million right now. I don't want you to miss out on the coming opportunities offered by Bitcoin in the cryptocurrency space. So I brought in the best experts in the game, the people that are teaching me and training me, and I'm going to share that with you because it's not too late to understand Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and the blockchain and to make money with it. So to sign up for my new Bitcoin Crypto Academy and learn how to invest, how to make money in this new exciting space, I'm going to open up room for a few of you to have early access to the new online mentor mastermind. So go to tylopez.com/Bitcoin podcast to learn more. So I'm testing the mastermind. So I'm just going to let a few of you in at a low price, and it's already filling up quickly. So if you want to get in, I'll let a few of you in. So go to tylopez.com/Bitcoin podcast, all one word. tylopez.com/Bitcoin podcast. If the course is closed, when you get to the page, put in your name in the waiting list. You missed out on the first round. And if you see it, welcome to the group. Glad you didn't procrastinate. Okay, back to the show.
So let's talk about the hard physical wallet. Can you repeat just the ones?
Trezor and Ledger and Nanos.
Okay.
Those are the two companies. They're both fantastic.
So
and that's the only two that you consider.
Let's take Bob, hypothetical. Bob or Susie buys on the exchange Coinbase. They want to take it off Coinbase. What's the process? You take the physical...
Yeah, you're going to withdraw it to that wallet on that key. It's basically all it is it's a piece of hardware that stores your private key that's got a wallet associated with it or wallets associated with it. And so you're just storing the private key offline.
Yes.
So it's nowhere on the internet. That's the safest way from a security perspective.
And where do you put it? A bank a safe in your house?
Depends on how much money you're talking about, right?
Let's say it's $1,000 for somebody.
Yeah, you can probably have just one backup.
Okay.
And then have that in a safe in your house.
And when you say two?
So you want one that is the one that you use.
Yes.
And you want to have a second one as a backup in case you lose it.
Would you do something? Two with the same?
Yeah, one is a backup. You just have redundancy. In a world where you're, taking control of your own money.
Yes.
It's important that you are taking responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like having a bar of gold in your house, except for a bar of gold that, is digital and you can lose it if you screw up, So make sure that, because who knows what can happen. Lots of things can happen in life, right?
What if somebody has $1 million? Then what do you do?
Then you probably want to have a third backup and just have one in another place in case that place gets burned down or,
So maybe one at a bank and one at your house.
Yeah, when you start dealing with big money, that's the right type of redundancy for whatever your main wallets would be. And then you have your kind of hot wallets, the online stuff that you use when you want to transact.
Yeah, so let's talk about the hot wallet. What do you recommend?
So it depends on, again, what tokens you're using, what coins.
Let's take Bitcoin, Ether, like Bitcoin Cat. They're using the bigger ones.
Yeah, so for like your Bitcoin stuff, there's been Bread Wallet and there's been Airbits, and you've had a number of kind of wallets that have come out over time that are all kind of okay with the hot wallets. You shouldn't be leaving large amounts of money in those. Those would become kind of like your mobile wallets. Then for your web wallets and Jax for all your other coins, actually you might be better off just using Jax.
Yeah.
For as much as you can for your mobile wallet, and then for your web wallet, you can.
And can you differentiate for people listening, mobile wallet versus web wallet?
Yeah, some things are better designed for mobile. Some things are...
Your phone.
So your phone is less secure than your computer and these types of things, or your computer is less secure depending upon what they're doing, how they've developed it. Security is, kind of, one of the main things that everyone needs to be mindful in this area, and that's why you don't leave large amounts of money in devices and wallets and things that could be accessed if someone stole your identity or someone got your hardware. And so that's why you leave the large sums offline.
So the large sums offline, and then do you transfer the large sums then, and you're putting them in?
Yeah, imagine you have your own vault.
Yep.
And so, okay, I only need, $10,000 right now, or $50,000 worth of stuff for $500 worth. Mm-hmm. And then the rest, is whatever it is that your needs are. And then, some of the other web wallets, Ether Wallet, Exodus, there's a few.
You think Jax can work for both?
For Bitcoin, if you have large amounts of money, BitGo. Mm-hmm. BitGo for large amounts of money is absolutely what I'd use for a web wallet. And with that, you can even, I think, forego some of that redundancy. The BitGo wallet's pretty phenomenal, too.
Yeah.
And there's other stuff out there. I'm sure I didn't include everyone. And to anyone I didn't mention, I'm sorry. It's not that I don't love you.
No.
I love everyone in this business that's working, from a place of good intention. Someone that's here to try and make good things happen. And, good people do make mistakes.
Yep.
And understand when you make mistakes, it's really costly for people. So do your best work. There's this Japanese concept of Kaizen, which is to continually improve.
Right.
Approach every situation and don't just get the job done. Do it as well as you can, and always strive to do it even better. Continual improvement. And if you start applying this to everything you do in your life, everything you do will become exceptional, and you will be growing and evolving at a pace that you've never imagined.
Yeah.
When you stop trying to live in a life of mediocrity. When we came out of World War II, because we won, because you have that pyramid of good, fast, cheap. Mm-hmm. And we won the war by being fast and cheap because we were able to mass produce, and that won the war. But post the war, we kept just doing fast and cheap. And we've basically started to build, we live in a world of mediocrity where people are not making things incredibly well. We don't need to be fast anymore. We can be, good and, we can be good and fast, but it won't be cheap. We can make it good. It should always
the Japanese rose up.
It should always be good. And there's this other Japanese concept of ikigai, which is when you figure out what you love, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, where you got the skills. I'm never going to be the NBA player, figure out what you're actually good at too. And then figure out, what the world needs. In the center of that is...
So what you're good at,
the ikigai,
what the world needs.
And what you love.
Yeah.
And in the center of that is what you'll find is your ikigai. That's your purpose.
And what's your ikigai?
We've got multiple, I call them superpowers as well. And so, the superpower that I'm using most right now is I know how to take complex ideas and distill them down into words that are generally easy for people to understand. I make my objective being able to teach a child.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you've started to hopefully master a skill. And as the Japanese do, it's about mastery. It's an ikigai is how you get to this point. And so I'm a storyteller, which makes me an evangelist, a first follower of Satoshi and the many other great creators like Vitalik and Dan Larimer and Gavin Wood and many others. There's a lot of incredible engineers, incredible cryptographers, people that are making the code that's going to change the world. And I just try to support these people that are operating with from a place of good intention. And so my purpose, though, is everything in my life, from digital currency to everything I've done, kind of just uniquely positioned me to obviously do well in this.
Because you've been in virtual currency since when? 90s?
99, yeah.
What virtual currency was back then?
It was gaming. So I was a teenager, and I was a kind of a pro-ish gamer. I mean,
he was also, a lot of you will remember him from Mighty Ducks. So he's also a child actor. We didn't put that in the, just a lot of people know that.
Yeah, oh good, it doesn't. I'm still.
So
I'm still an actor. I just don't do scripted things anymore.
That's right. You're a modern reality actor.
The world is but a stage.
Yeah.
You don't stop performing once you become a performer. You don't stop using your superpowers. Once you've developed them, they become part of.
Now you're using it for more powerful purposes.
They become part of your toolkit of things. I mean, you just keep learning, and you just Kaizen everything, and you just keep showing up and give everything your best. So yeah, the gaming stuff. 99 is collectible card games online, and so I was becoming the main trader, and I called it and then seller, and I called the game company. I'm like, I'd like to buy your virtual packs of cards. Think Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, and I said like comic book shops do or baseball card stores. And I said that's what they do in the analog world. They're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And so I did that first deal, and a small game that never got more than 5,000 users. But then I came back when the first MMORPGs were emerging, Ultima Online and EverQuest. And then I built the whole sort of market for that, and I built up, to buy and sell the digital currencies in games like World of Warcraft and Second Life, and I became the primary market maker for the world's digital economies or virtual economies, and I built up a supply chain of 400,000 people in China in my early 20s that were playing games professionally to mine digital currency. I did tens of billions of dollars of business, lived all over the world. Hong Kong, Shanghai, Beijing.
We met probably 10 years ago through a mutual friend who was in Tiger 21, which is an investment group that you were in. And we went to dinner, and then we reconnected almost a decade later. When did you start with cryptocurrencies as we know it, the Bitcoins?
So I got familiar, not as well probably as I should have, very early on. But it wasn't until 2012 because when I was first approached and asked what my opinion was, I was like, Bitcoin, this or something like it is the future. I just don't know if the future is now or 25 years from now.
Right.
Market timing is something that I try to be, aware of, because that's kind of the main thing you got to get right.
Yeah.
It's not hard to see the future. Getting the timing right is the hardest part. I got in full time in 2012. That's when I said, hey, the future's now.
Yeah.
And
good time to get it.
Done a lot of
Let me ask you a practical question, because Zach is here. His uncle was given about $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, I don't know, a couple years ago. It's probably worth 500 grand, and he cannot access it because he can't remember how to get to it. What do people know? This is a lesson on security, remembering your hash, or 10 words.
This is why you have backups. Yes, you need to write these things down.
So how do you think a beginner, what do they need to know?
Well, in this specific case, does he know what wallet he had?
Probably. We will find out.
Yeah, but let's start. It's an investigation. What does he remember? Was he using a blockchain.info wallet? Did he have a Coinbase account? Try to figure out what that is. Go through his emails, see if there's any.
We calculated it's worth 500 grand.
Any account registered to that email address, and with a little bit of research, you may find that the answer is there.
Well, let's talk preemptively for someone who doesn't want this to happen to them. How do you? What's the basics of storing everything?
Yeah. So when you set up, it's security is having two-factor authentication. Make sure that you've enabled that. Use a Google two-factor authenticator.
Use the Google app.
That's the
better than SMS or anything like that.
Definitely don't use SMS. SMS is not secure for anything. Never use SMS again. Google Authenticator is the easiest.
It's an app you download, and it changes and gives you new codes all the time.
So make sure you got to get the basics of security right. In the new world, security is important because we now have secure systems, but it does require learning a new skill.
And
it
just
was like,
having
it
that
was
on
like
your
learning
phone?
to use email for the first time. You know, it's just a new skill, and it's
Yeah.
going to serve you well. So put a little time into it because it's important. And so, yeah, get the two-factor authentication stuff figured out. Do not use SMS. And then when you open up a wallet, it normally has a passphrase, something of that nature, or you're going to get the two-factor auth, QR codes, or whatever it might be. Make sure you get those numbers and things. Store it down on a piece of paper.
Would you do it on a piece of paper?
Put it on a piece of paper. Put it in a safe. You know,
In a safe in your house.
Yeah, you don't want to save it as a photo or a screen capture because if someone hacks into your photos, you don't want those things.
What about something like LastPass?
Not for something like this. I mean, I wouldn't use your private keys there unless it's a small account for convenience. If it's inconsequential amount of money to you, then take what
Piece of
risk
paper.
If you want to do things well, yeah, just make sure you store that, put it offline, and if ever you have a problem, you've got redundancy.
Yeah.
And that's why I say have multiple of the hardware keys.
Yes.
Have one in a backup.
So everything you're doing here,
Have
you
redundancy.
want something offline and multiple places, especially if you have a lot of money, because that's a nightmare. What percentage? I've read a percentage of crypto Bitcoin that people can't access. It's a large amount that people have forgotten where they put it.
Yeah, it's a large amount. I mean,
Tens of millions,
probably 10%. No, it's
hundreds of millions of dollars.
No, billions. No, yeah.
Billion. Oh man, I read an article. I got to ask you this. It came out today, theorizing that Elon Musk is the man of mystery behind Bitcoin. You don't have to. You may know a lot more than you can say here on camera. Any comment on that?
I've never. Elon is obviously doing some of the most extraordinary things in the world. I mean, he's kind of like the entrepreneur of the world, kind of the man in being an inspiration, doing like the most challenging, out there, dream big. And remember, there is no ceiling. It's all blue sky above you.
Yeah.
Anything you dream, anything you can imagine, you can do.
Yeah.
The power is within you.
Yes.
If you, go from
they
me to,
accept it.
go from me
Bitcoin,
to
Tesla.
Yeah, and so
you can buy a Tesla with.
I mean, doing what he's done for electric cars. Look at what he's doing for solar. Look at what he's doing for space, and and now look at what he's doing with hyperloops and boring. I mean, he's the man. But I can't see that has any possibility of.
You don't think that's true?
Well, no, he couldn't. I mean, as much as he's the man, there's only and SpaceX. I mean, there's just only so much one can do.
So much.
And he's not been this guy. I mean, but he. Obviously was part of PayPal and been a player in this overall broader spectrum, at least the fintech part and others, and just being a great mind. I mean, an inspiration, and he's helped obviously many people. I mean, he's made a lot of the entrepreneurs in the world, the entrepreneurs today because he's inspired so many. So obviously PayPal and things led and inspired. Some of these types of creations,
right.
We had to go from the old world offline stuff to the online stuff and then figuring out how to continually upgrade it. How do things continue to evolve?
Yeah. Let me ask you this. One of the questions, I did this poll on the way over here. What coins, there's so many, there's thousands, there's the main coins, the Bitcoin, the ETH, the Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash. Are there other coins people should be watching? Do you see... Is there going to be a world where there's 1 million coins? Every corporation, Apple will have a coin here, every place you use. For a beginning investor, let's start with this and then go big picture. For a beginning investor, would you recommend that wants to put, let's say, $10,000 into crypto? Do you recommend a little bit of that into the main coins that have liquidity and then some of the alternative coins?
Well, I'd say don't invest in anything you don't understand. And so start with the big coins because those are the ones with the most liquidity, they're the safest, and just work your way down the list. Go to CoinMarketCap or CoinCap or any of these sites and start at number one and just work your way down from coin number 1, 3, 5, 10. And, as you keep learning them all, you're going to eventually get to the point that you can form your own opinions. Yeah. But I wouldn't recommend investing in anything you don't understand. So start with the big stuff, and then as you learn more, try to understand that, the rabbit hole runs deep. So just keep kind of learning, and you'll see amazing things, emerging before your eyes.
Do you think people should trade coins actively? I see people there, whether
if you think you're a trader, if you're a Wall Street trader and that's your competency, I don't trade, but if that's what you do, I can see it. If you know how to make algorithms, if you're a quant or whatever, if you're good at it, there is obviously money to be made, lots of money to be made in this space. Yeah. I don't like trading because when I get involved in a project or I get behind a project, I want to be fully in support of it, and to trade it is actually to kind of short the project that you believe in.
Yeah.
Because I can make a couple extra bucks by riding it down and actually causing it to go down more because I added to,
Yes.
you know, the
You were
negative
selling
pressure.
yeah.
I was selling into the market, and certainly as someone of influence, I don't want to be doing that. And so I don't trade for that reason. But, you know, I don't judge others for doing what they do. If that's your talent, you know, do what you do.
Yeah.
But I want to be behind a project until I'm not.
What do you think of Ethereum?
I love Ethereum. I've been a huge supporter of Ethereum. I'm friends with, very good friends with most of the founders. My firm was the first to invest in an Ethereum, you know, venture deal. I'm one of the founding board members of Mastermind, which was the early iteration of kind of what Ethereum in some ways evolved into. We did the first ICO in June of 2013. You know, I'm a huge fan. I mean, Vitalik and Ethereum has done more for, you know, the market in the last couple of years than anyone.
So for people listening that
other
don't...
than Bitcoin, and Ethereum has done other things to expand the market. You know, more use cases. Than
Right, the smart
Bitcoin.
contracts. Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, the classic. Someone listening that doesn't understand that. You're a master of making complicated things simple. How do you make that simple for people? People are going, what the heck do I buy? It was Bitcoin Cash? Is this what?
Forking. Forking is good. Forking is evolution. We're all here because of forking. We are a fork of our parents' DNA. Forks are generally consensual, and for that reason they're generally good, but then you have contentious forks. And it's the contentious forks that, you know, create, you know, a lot of the problems because you have a big disagreement in a community. And that contentious fork, you know, watching it because it's open source, you get to see how the sausage is made is messy. And it sometimes leads to extinction, but that's sometimes progress too. I support all the forks where the people behind it are operating from a place of good intention. You know, they're multivariate splits, and if the community wants to split, so be it. If you own any of these fork tokens and you don't have a strong opinion, I would highly recommend you don't sell them. Unless you know, again, have an informed opinion, because you don't know if Bitcoin Cash could be the winner.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly I'm not saying that's the case, but you don't, until you have an opinion, you shouldn't be doing anything. Hold your tokens till you know.
Do you think there's a chance?
You'll see the recurring theme: learn to know, learn to know, learn to know. Wake up, wake up.
Yeah, which was kind of how we align. I'm all about knowledge and learning, and you're a learning machine. Bitcoin, theoretically, the main Bitcoin could go down and Bitcoin Cash could go up. Bitcoin Gold. Do you think there's a chance, or very likely chance, that all of them go down to nothing? Or do you think it'll be one could go down and the other would rise?
I mean, yeah, Bitcoin could fail. I mean, I don't know if Bitcoin's the Friendster, the MySpace, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Snapchat. You know, I think it's got a much greater chance of surviving than those did. But, you know, something else could come along that's substantially better. I don't see it as of right now, but I would never say never. It'll be a binary outcome. You know, Bitcoin will go to $1 million if it succeeds, and if it fails, yeah, it's going to go down. It'll take a very, very long time.
You think it's conceivable Bitcoin goes to $1 million?
Yeah, I mean, if it is used enough.
So let's talk, are people using Bitcoin? Like I said, Tesla is used. It's being used in countries
being used
in
as a
Africa.
store of value.
It's being used in Africa, some cryptocurrencies.
For like wire transfers and a store of value. And
places like Zimbabwe,
and
Venezuela.
Speculation, yeah. Places where you've got currency control. Keep in mind, there's 3 billion people on the planet that have no financial services, another 2+ billion people on the planet with limited access to financial services.
Yeah.
One aspect, and it's almost a small aspect, of what this technology is doing is it's going to democratize the global financial system in a way where every human being on the planet is going to have equal access. And the least fortunate billions of people on the planet are going to be the biggest beneficiaries. Yeah. You know, get involved and you will be a billionaire by my definition. Yeah. Because that's the type of impact we're going to have.
Yeah.
I mean, and if that's not a reason to make you want to get up in the morning, you know, I mean, come on.
So you're saying that
this is the sort of stuff that you want to find joy in your life. Go, and when you get all these things right and you find a way to give your gift and contribute to something beautiful, I promise you the money and everything in life that you need and want will most likely come to you.
Yeah. So these unbanked people, there are people in third world countries, there's people in the U.S. My dad was unbanked. My dad's from Harlem, never had a bank account in his life or a credit card. He didn't trust the system. He kept money in his wallet. I took him to a trip to Puerto Rico once, and he lost his sock that had $3,000 in it, which is a problem with being unbanked, you know, that you can get robbed, you can have this happen to you. So you're saying this thing that we call cryptocurrency, Bitcoin blockchain, theoretically is going to take these 3 billion people who, did you know right now the top 10 men in the world have more money, if they add their net worth together, than the bottom 3.5 billion people in the world? You think crypto blockchain has the potential to change that?
Yeah, I mean, this is one area where it's one of my only disappointments with Bitcoin is there's still a lot of concentration. If Bitcoin were to become that big thing, I mean, yeah, I'd be one of the big guys in that world. But that's the only thing that disappoints me. I really want to build a system that's fairer to everyone.
Yeah.
But, I think that Bitcoin is still a big improvement over what we have. And, the world can, change in increments. You don't have to go from A to Z. And it normally doesn't. Things normally happen in more of a hybrid type of things,
Yeah.
Evolution goes through phases, as you continually upgrade, leveling up. I'd like to think of life as kind of like a video game.
People ask me, is it too late to get in? Bitcoin shot to 11,000 not too long ago. It was at 4,000, and people go, is it too late?
Oh, it's if anything, you're too early.
Really?
I wouldn't say you're too late. It's called don't get fear of missing out syndrome. Don't feel the need to just dive in.
Yeah.
Make sure you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't rush in. And what I always tell people is, like when I'm giving talks these days, I'm like, hey, if you want to pitch me, don't walk up to me and just pitch me your deal. Don't just walk up to me and like treat me like a street salesman trying to hawk me a watch, hawk a watch, or tell me you can make me a bunch of money. That's not how I want to transact.
Right.
Establish a human connection. So, I think of the world as a game, and I'm the game master of my game, and I can give you like the first tip on like kind of how to get through level one. Level one is don't start out as the first thing you do. Pitch me. Don't just walk up and be rude and interrupt someone else that's in the middle of something talking because you want immediate attention. Don't be a person that's like, what do you do when you're at an event? All of those things are basically saying, what can you give me?
Yeah.
That's people that are just basically going around entitled and just trying to take from everyone versus doing what you're supposed to be doing. So you fail like right out the gate. If you pitch me, it's like dying like the first press of the button in Flappy Birds.
Most people do that too.
And so if you walk up to me and you're like, yeah, they do, and that's why I don't invest. But I'm telling them now, this is a good lesson. I'm teaching you. I'm giving you the cheat codes to kind of my game anyway. And this game is probably true for lots of other people. Whether they've thought it through and gamified it in their minds, it's a practice they probably already put in place. I mean, no one wants to just have someone in their face hawking you a deal. It's just not interesting to any of us. So instead, like if you get a Burning Man, come up to me and tell me you're a burner, boom, you just skip to like level 10.
If you want to talk to Brock, first definitely go to Burning Man. I can tell you that.
I'm always burning.
You and your wife have gotten married at Burning Man how many years in a row? Remarried, or what is it?
We got married once there 2 burns ago.
Okay.
This year we got married in Ibiza.
Oh, okay.
We get married every year, but it's a different place.
So it's not always at Burning Man. What's the idea there? Is it redoing your vows? Is it just...
I think it's always fun to celebrate. And
so it's just another reason to party.
It's a reason to throw an event to celebrate love, and it's for your friends more than anything else. And
And you bought a place in Ibiza. What is it? A farm?
Yeah.
Is it one of the big? You told me it's
60 acres. So
60 acres.
We're building something magical out there. I'm working on also building a kind of a city, a big city somewhere else.
Will you say where it is or not yet?
A city. Yeah, I can say. Puerto Rico. The 51st state with like 180 billion in debt, 35% unemployment, and now a hurricane hits. I mean, it's devastating what's happened there.
Yeah.
I'm moving right now.
Really?
I'm going to be moving down there with a bunch of my friends shortly, because it might just be temporary for a moment, but I want to go roll up my sleeves and get some work done down there and help out. I think those people need our help, and I think that we're capable of so much.
Yeah, and it's almost become a blank slate now.
Yeah, and so in these times of crisis, the phoenix can rise sort of from the ashes. You can, when you experience great loss, it creates an opportunity to upgrade, but where you can make these giant quantum leaps of upgrades because you basically lost everything, and so you have to start over. And when you have to start over from scratch, you would do it very differently.
Yeah.
Than if you have this big thing that's kind of been, building on top of itself for ages and ages.
Yeah.
So in this horrible event that's occurred, there will be a great opportunity that emerges, and I want to be a part of helping the Puerto Rican people, helping people that are in need. I'm here on this planet to live in service to humanity. I see an opportunity to make a difference in the world, and I'm devoting my life to these types of things, and I'm an American, and I love my country. You know, I don't love everything, but, you know, I feel incredibly blessed to have been born here and to be given the opportunities to be where I am sitting here today with you, and eternally grateful. Thank you. I'm glad that we've, you know, reconnected and been spending time together.
Yeah.
You do, you know, great things. I love who you are, and I love what you're doing in the world. You know, getting the word out and sharing the knowledge and the wisdom in ways that, you know, you can connect with the masses is a wonderful thing. You have one of those incredibly important roles and great responsibilities, and, you know, from what I see, you're doing great work. I commend you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm trying to, this is the next thing that I think needs to get out there. And one of the things that people are asking me is these ICOs. You've done the biggest one, right? Aren't you isn't EOS the biggest by far?
I think that's what they say.
Brock's humble, but it is the biggest because nothing's done over 500 million, and you're not even done because it goes to what, May or something of 2018?
June 1st.
June 1st.
Do you know what the logo is?
No. Oh yeah, you showed me.
It's the chestahedron. It's the sacred geometry of the heart.
Yeah, you actually, he was nice enough to give me, I have it. You gave me a necklace. Thank you for that, by the way. Are most ICOs scams?
I wouldn't say most of them are scams. There are a lot of scams. Anytime you get this big of an asymmetry of information where the difference between the people that have the knowledge and those that don't is so great, every cockroach and kind of scumbag comes out there, which is why I keep telling you, don't invest in things you don't understand.
Yeah.
You can't get scammed if you don't invest in things you don't understand.
But there are ICOs you think that are solid.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like all things, you know, there are good deals and there are bad deals. And you need to do your research, and that's why don't invest in things you don't understand. You can't get scammed if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So make sure you learn to know.
Yeah.
Knowledge first. You know, get the knowledge first before you act. Don't like rush in and let someone tell you what to do.
What about entrepreneurs
Think for
that
yourself.
want to...
Take responsibility for your life.
What about entrepreneurs that want to raise capital?
I think it's fantastic.
You think an ICO could be for them?
So the ICO is basically, on Ethereum, the ICO is essentially replacing most of venture capital.
Yes. It's bigger than, what's the number?
We're crushing it. We're over 3 billion. I mean, we're doing like 4 or 5 times what early stage venture is right now. I mean, this is going to crush it all. It's going to crush it. It's the world's changing. So if somebody... and there's an opportunity to get involved. You know, if you're interested in, you know, building the city of the future, get to Puerto Rico and, but I mean, be a master and be ready to like roll up your sleeves and build. We're gonna.
I might come down there. I'm Puerto Rican.
We'll roll up our sleeves.
Yeah.
We're burners. We're guys that can build cities.
Yeah.
In the middle of desert.
Yeah.
We can do things that very few people in the world can do, and you know, why not go down there and construct something awesome that creates all sorts of opportunity for the Puerto Rican people.
Yeah.
You know, to support the Puerto Rican people and any of the indigenous tribes and old ways of being, and making sure that they have the freedoms that they need to, you know, still be respected.
Yeah.
You know, with things like Standing Rock and such going on today. I'm spending a lot of time thinking about the indigenous tribes. Most of the world's resources, most of the world's, you know, minerals and water and things that we need to survive are on the lands of the indigenous people. And we think in our big cities that, you know, we're somehow superior, and that you have, you know, these people that have old ways of being that are just incredibly beautiful.
Yeah. Colombia too, where you're going.
In all of these places, such people that have been doing this for so long and doing it so well, that because it looks primitive to us, because we don't understand their ways, and they've learned how to live in harmony. You know, they kind of have had their avatar sort of, that's where they are. We're not necessarily the advanced ones.
Okay, so as we wrap up, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you got lots of stuff. For somebody who wants to do an ICO and they're educated themselves, do you think, number one, that this is a viable replacement of raising capital going up to Silicon Valley? You answered is yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So number two, do you raise outside of the U.S.? Because the U.S., the SEC is coming down. I know you guys did. I think EOS is outside the U.S., right? You've excluded everybody.
Yeah, we don't even. We don't even talk about the token sale in the U.S. Yes, we exclude the U.S. I mean, but we do encourage U.S. developers to build on EOS. You don't need the token to be able to use the software.
Yes.
The software is an open source software available to everyone.
So
we encourage people.
Do you recommend most people do that, raise outside of the U.S.? If you're doing it.
I mean, I love my country, but our regulations are the most complex, and the risks of making a mistake are really high.
Yes.
And so I did it with the BCAP deal, but I generally don't recommend it because the U.S. is where most of your risk comes from, but only a small amount of your capital. Are you willing to leave some money on the table, to sleep better at night?
Yeah.
And it's not that you would do anything wrong. I think most of the well-intended ICOs are doing this to the best of their abilities, and they're being as thoughtful as they can be, but the risks are high. You have to make that decision for yourself. I encourage people to do the U.S. if, they are doing it correctly and they're properly legally advised. But, if you're doing the U.S., really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
The risks of getting it wrong are severe.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
Yeah, the SEC is
orange,
not...
I know the orange is the new black and all. I know I wouldn't look good in that color, and I don't do anything bad. I look at everything I do, and I try to also look at it in the future with the benefit of hindsight if things go certain ways where, even though I didn't do anything wrong, it could eventually look bad because some sort of set. I try to think through all of the possibilities.
Yeah.
Because I just don't ever want to do something that could be perceived as bad, and it's hard.
Would you do it as a utility token versus, because you have to securitize it? In general, do you think people should be trying to do utility tokens?
I mean, it depends on your token. Each token sale is different. Each market is different, and you have to look at each deal on, its kind of individual basis.
Yes.
And so you have to ask yourself, this is community building. In designing your token, is your community better suited, if it's a security token or a utility token?
Yeah.
And always do what's best for your users. Always do what's best for your community. I like to call the ICO the initial community offering.
Okay. Not just the initial coin. So you think, in general, there's a little bit too much greed right now?
Yeah, but this is what happens when you get these emotional cycles. And, that's
you
why
need that greed, though, to get people in.
Yeah, it's driving growth. I mean, these are the cycles of things. This is how it goes.